This department here makes the RP-8 and the RP-10 turntable models, sort of mid-range and high-end turntables. And today we're going to have a look at the main stages through of manufacturing an RP-8 turntable. First process we have to do is assemble the outer frame of the RP-8. We have to fit 4 acrylic strips that are custom made for us into the end. This is a purely cosmetic procedure, but gives us the ability to provide customers with an outer frame and a lid holder. The next process for us is to fit the bottom brace. This is one half of a stressed beam assembly that gives the lightweight plinth great stability and strength. These turntables have actually 2 sets of feet, an inner foot and an outer foot, as you'll see a little bit later on. And the whole design of this is to make sure that we don't introduce any unwanted mass from the outer frame into the inner. The shape of the turntable, we're pleased to say it designed itself. There's some critical dimensions on here, 222mm between the arm centre and the hub centre. This is key for the size tone arm we use. We know the position for these 2 components. We know the position for the correct speed adjustment for the motor, and then obviously the feet for stability. And what that gives us is a turntable shape. So if you cut round those key components and fits, you're left with this quite unusual shape. 3 inner feet are now fitted to the inside plinth, simply screwed into place into the inserts that we've just fitted. You'll be able to see that simply locates into the middle of the outer feet, meaning that the outside frame has no effect whatsoever on the actual performance of the turntable. It's purely there to protect the turntable from dust. You're looking at an RP-8 motor assembly here. Before it's fitted to the turntable, obviously the assembly is made all in-house, but we have the ability to adjust the phase of the motor, thus reducing vibration. The little box you can see is a TTPSU, which is a convenience that it's an electronic speed change, but its main function is obviously a smooth power supply and the ability to adjust the vibration of the motor. Turntable now ready to go. Now it's time to fit the tone arm. For this model it's the RB808. Uses Rega's custom-made aluminium tone arm tube. Single piece construction, very lightweight, very rigid and perfectly designed for this style of turntable. Rega's main philosophy with tone arm design, it's very important to have zero play in the bearings. A tone arm that can move this end obviously is going to add coloration to the actual playback of vinyl. You want it to be perfectly mounted, you want it to be controlled and having extremely free movement. As a production test we use a 20mg weight on our tone arms, that we allow that to tip and adjust the vertical bearings and the horizontal bearings, showing just how free the play and the movement of our tone arms are. We'll just have a brief look at our moving coil assembly. A painstaking process, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of skill. It's not something everyone can do. We're winding with a 0.018mm wire. It's incredibly fine. That wire actually has 2 layers of coating over it to protect it, so the wire inside is even finer than that. This is a job where human touch is key. The control over the tension on the wire is so fine that it's something that comes with a lot of practice and a lot of skill. Ash will use his thumb over a little custom made. It is nothing more than a glue bottle with a bit of foam and a pad in order to allow the pressure to be controlled during the winding. The first job to do is actually to set up the wire, lock it into position on the coil itself. Very small amount of cyanoacrylate is used just to seal the start point of the coil, just to stop it unravelling during the wind. See, with a wire this fine, it's very difficult to identify which one's left and right channels, so we have to paint each tail with a colour to identify at this point, and the winding begins. So one set of coils is the left channel, and then the whole assembly has to come out of the jig, be rotated, and we repeat the process to do the second channel. That's a finished cartridge without its coil, so you have a very high-powered neodymium magnet. The coil assembly that you've just seen wound is fitted in reverse through the back of the pivot pad, and then the only adjustment we actually have is the position of this magnet, its position to the moving coil itself. So the build process has to be perfect all the way through. This is the sub platter for the RP-8 tone arm. We have a hardened steel spindle and a hardened steel plate. We use no ball bearing in this design. The spindle actually runs directly onto the hardened plate on the bottom. These both go off for hardening together at the same time. So this material and this material are identical hardness, so you get very little wear. I don't think I've ever replaced one of these. As we've been using this design for about 15 years, 20 years, I've never had to replace one through wear. We use Hypoid 80 motor gear oil, 1 drop down the bottom, and 2 drops down the side. Push that into place. It will take a little while to settle because the tolerance is so tight inside. As you can give it a spin, that will help it go down, but eventually that will sit flat. If you've got good eyes, you'll be able to see there's 3,500 lines printed on here. And we use an LED reading system. It reads the rotational speed of that disc to 2 decimal places, and it's extremely accurate. The LED is lined up correctly, making sure it can see and read the lines on the encoder disc. It runs around 8 or 9 revolutions, takes an average reading over that time. And hopefully in a second the box will show a green screen and a pass, which it does. This is the float glass platter for the RP-8. Almost impossible to construct if you speak to most glass manufacturers. You're asking them to produce almost 0 tolerance on 3 rings of glass and then stick it together invisibly. For us, it's a perfect material. It's a flywheel effect platter, so the mass and the larger ring is on the outside of the platter. Obviously that naturally wants to keep going once it's accelerated, keep speed stability and the turntable as close as you can get it to accurate.